This is Sonia Salmi with the Nightly News featuring Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. So I understand that you have just met the 3 witches and they gave you your prophecies. Could you explain to me what the witches told you?
Well, yes, the 2 prophecies were that I will become the Thane of Cawdor and the King of Scotland.
How did you feel when you received this information?
At first I was quite skeptical, I have to admit. But then I ran upon Ross and Angus, and they told me that I had become Thane of Cawdor. In my thoughts, I thought that if one of the prophecies came true, maybe the other one will come true in the future. Oh, what it would be like to be king. I would love the power. I mean, the people.
What would you do if you received the power that the witches told you about?
I would have a kingdom all of my own. Everybody would have to respect me, follow my rules, bow down to the leader, King Macbeth! I would enforce strict rules in order to have a safe and happy environment.
Hello, Lady Macbeth. So I heard that you just received a letter from your husband. What did the letter say?
So Macbeth, my husband, he informed me of the news. He told me of his meeting with the 3 witches and that the prophecies they gave him. They told him that he would become Thane of Cawdor and that he would become king. And then he also informed me about his meeting with Ross and Angus and how immediately after his meeting with the witches that they told him that he already had become Thane of Cawdor.
How do you feel about this news?
It's wonderful that he has become Thane of Cawdor, but I definitely don't think that he has the courage in order to become king. I don't think that he's man enough in order to kill a man to get to that royalty. I'm definitely going to have to be a lot of influence, and it's going to be difficult, but I think I may be able to do it.
What's your plan for Macbeth becoming king?
He's going to have to kill Duncan, King Duncan. He's going to have to kill him. But the question is how. Duncan, he will come to our castle to celebrate winning the wars. And then I'll have to push Macbeth. I'll have to push him to sneak into his room and do the deed.
Macbeth, you have just killed Duncan. What influenced you to do this?
I do have to admit at first that I did think of doing this once I heard of the possibility of becoming king. I knew there was some way that I had to get in a position, and killing Duncan was the only way. However, it wasn't until my wife actually began to bring the idea up to me that I thought of actually acting upon these ideas and killing Duncan. I really didn't want to do it. I wanted to just let my fate play its role and play itself out. But my wife insulted my manhood. I couldn't let her do that. It was just too much. I needed to become king.
How do you feel now after all is said and done?
After killing Duncan, I felt so scared. I wanted to turn myself in. I even forgot to get rid of the bloody daggers that I killed him with. I was convinced that I heard voices coming from the halls cursing me and punishing me for what I had done. I felt immense amounts of guilt. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have murdered Duncan. I would have just let my fate take myself through life. I would change my motives. I wouldn't become so power-hungry to become king, and instead let things happen on their own.
Lady Macbeth, how do you think that you had an impact on your husband to kill King Duncan?
Well, at first my husband seemed as though that he wasn't even going to follow through with the deed, so I knew at that point I had to step up. He was acting like a coward, and he had to know that, so of course I informed him of it. And at that point, I knew that he was going to follow through with the deed because I know that he doesn't want to be thought of as a coward or anything less than a man, a great man. And so I feel like I had a great influence on him for that reason. And luckily that was enough to influence him to commit the murder.
How do you feel now that the deed is done?
Honestly, it feels pretty amazing because now I'm one step closer to royalty, and I didn't even have to do anything to get here. I feel that my influence over my husband could get me a lot more power than I thought. I was slightly concerned though when I found out that he forgot to leave the bloody daggers on the bodyguards. So I hope that he's not too much of a coward and that he is able to handle what's in store, because he needs to know that there's a lot more coming if we want all the power.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, for coming and giving your insight on these experiences. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up in the near future. Thank you for your time.